remember the first thing I noticed. The rug was gone. Not the big one, but the little blue one I kept by the door, where I always tossed my sneakers after work. It was just missing. In its place were beige heels I didn't recognize, lined up too neatly. That was the moment I felt it, like something inside me had tilted, just slightly, off its axis. My name is Elise Morales. I'm 28, a graphic designer, quiet by nature, loyal to a fault. I had lived in that apartment for nearly 4 years, paid the rent on time, replaced the water heater with my own savings when the landlord dragged his feet, even added new light fixtures at my expense. It wasn't a palace, but it was mine, until I got sick. The diagnosis came like a landslide. Autoimmune disorder. Flare-ups so aggressive they put me in the hospital for almost 3 weeks. I didn't tell many people, just my family. I thought they'd help cover my place, check the mail, maybe water the plants. I was wrong. When I got discharged, I didn't go straight home. I stayed with my friend Jen for 2 more days because I wasn't strong enough to climb the stairs yet. I texted my mom, told her I'd be heading back Monday. She said, "Okay, glad you're feeling better." That's it. Not a warning, not a word. When I finally arrived, suitcase in tow and breath shallow from the 3 flights of stairs, I found the lock had been changed. At first, I thought I was just weak, maybe shaking too much to get the key in. I tried again, and again. My key didn't work. Then I rang the bell, and she opened the door. "Can I help you?" she asked, cocking her head. "My cousin Danielle." She stood in my doorway wearing my oversized flannel, the one I slept in every winter. And behind her I saw it. My couch had been moved. My books were gone. Her tacky yellow throw pillows were on my armchair. She didn't even flinch. I stepped back, stunned. Why are you here?" She smiled like I'd just asked what the weather was. "Aunt Marie said you were gone for good, that you might move in with a friend for recovery. She said I could use the space for a few months while I get back on my feet." I blinked, heart pounding in my ears. "This is my apartment." Danielle gave a soft chuckle. It was. But no. One's name was officially on the lease anymore after your renewal lapsed. Your mom said the landlord was fine with a sublet. She leaned on the doorframe. "Anyway, I've already paid 2 months' rent. Got all my stuff moved in. Sorry if it's awkward." I stood there, shivering in the hallway, trying to process. I hadn't let the lease lapse. I'd sent the renewal forms from the hospital. But my mom had access to my email. She was helping me manage my paperwork. Had she? No. But yes. Something ice-cold and unnameable sank into my stomach. I didn't fight. I didn't yell. I said quietly, "I'll be back." Danielle shrugged. "Sure. Text me first, though. I've got interviews and yoga classes now. Super busy." Closed the door in my face. I walked away, slowly, back down the stairs, shaking. And that night, I didn't cry. I pulled out my backup drive. I printed the lease renewal form, signed, time-stamped. I pulled receipts for the light fixtures, the heating system, the damage deposit I paid alone. I went through emails, messages, bank transfers. I logged every call and memo I had sent while in the hospital. Then I found the landlord's number and called. I waited until the next morning to call the landlord. His name was Mitch Price, an aging ex-surfer with thinning hair and an allergy to paperwork. The kind of landlord who liked to pretend everything was fine until it caught fire. I had handled most of our communication through email, paper trails he barely read. But today, I needed a voice. It rang 4 times before he answered. Mitch. Hey, it's Elise Morales. From 4B. A pause. Oh. Elise, wow. Hey. Wasn't expecting to hear from you. I thought. I'm out of the hospital. I cut in. And I tried to come home yesterday. Right. Yeah. He cleared his throat. So listen, your mom said, she doesn't speak for me. My voice didn't rise, but each word landed clean and sharp. I sent in the lease renewal. Did you process it? A longer pause. Look, I didn't get the form. I mean, maybe I did. But Marie said you were seriously ill, that you were considering moving into assisted housing, and that your cousin would take over. She lied. Mitch exhaled. Look, I'm not trying to get in the middle of a family thing. It's not a family thing. It's a legal one. I gave him 5 seconds of silence. Let it sink. Then I said calmly, you accepted rent from someone not listed on the lease, without a signed sublet agreement. That's a violation. More silence. I just want my apartment back, I added. We can do this one of 2 ways, quietly, or through the tenancy board. He sighed again, deeper this time. Let me check what I've got on file. I'll call you back in a few hours. You've got 2. I hung up and stared at my phone. It trembled in my hand, not from weakness, from restraint. Jen walked into the room with 2 mugs of coffee. Was that? Landlord, I said. He's an idiot, but I've got leverage. She handed me the mug. And your family? I looked at the phone again. I hadn't told my mother I knew. Not yet. I didn't trust myself to speak to her without cracking. Instead, I opened our message history and scrolled. There it was, the casual emoji response when I said I was coming back. Glad you're feeling better, like she hadn't handed my life over to someone else. Danielle, of all people. Danielle had never worked a job longer than 3 months. She bounced from couch to couch, always with some dramatic tale of a friend who turned toxic. She had no furniture of her own, no savings, and apparently no shame. But now she was living in my home, wearing my things, using my shampoo, flipping through my cookbooks like they were hers. Jen placed a gentle hand on my arm. You're scaring me with that look. I shook my head. I'm fine. You're not. You're calculating. I'm planning. That afternoon, Mitch called back. His voice was tighter now, cautious. Okay, I found the lease renewal. It came through, time-stamped. That's on me. I missed it. And technically, you're still the tenant on file, which makes Danielle a squatter. That word tasted perfect. So, he continued, what do you want to do? I can give her 72 hours notice to vacate, but you'd need to be there to officially take possession again. I'd need to meet you there. When? Tomorrow? I smiled. Book it. I didn't tell Danielle. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't text. I didn't warn. I let them exist inside the illusion for one more night. I let her sleep in my bed, dreaming in my sheets, sipping from my mugs. Because tomorrow, she'd wake up to the sound of consequences. The sun was just cresting over the neighboring building when Jen dropped me off in front of my apartment the next morning. I stood outside the front entrance, keys in hand, not yet fitting the new locks. I had a backpack slung over one shoulder, nothing more. Everything else had been left behind, either stolen, packed up, or tossed out like I was just a distant memory. But I was very much present now. Mitch pulled up 2 minutes later in his faded gray pickup. He gave me a sheepish look as he approached, clipboard in hand. "Still early," he muttered. "You sure you want to do this now?" "I'm not waiting for courtesy anymore," I said. She didn't. He nodded and followed me upstairs. The moment we stepped onto the third-floor landing, I heard music playing, soft indie pop humming, from behind my door. Something about that made my teeth clench harder than I expected. Mitch knocked. The music didn't stop. I heard footsteps, then a giggle. Then the lock turned. Danielle opened the door, barefoot and smirking. "Oh, it's you again." Her tone was honey-slicked with disdain. But when she saw Mitch standing next to me, her smile faltered just a bit. "Danielle, right?" Mitch said, clearing his throat. "I'm the property owner. You're not on the lease. I've reviewed the documentation, and legally, Elise still holds tenancy. You have 72 hours to vacate." Her smile slid right off her face. "What?" She laughed, incredulous. No. Aunt Marie said she's not the tenant." Mitch cut her off. "You're here without legal agreement. You'll be considered trespassing after 72 hours if you don't leave. Elise, here, has every right to re-enter her apartment starting now." Danielle blinked rapidly, then turned toward me, her face darkening like a sky before a storm. "You can't be serious. After everything your mom and I did while you were sick?" "I didn't ask either of you to do anything," I said coldly. "I cleaned. I brought groceries. You moved in. You changed the locks. You wore my clothes. You sold my books." Her jaw tensed. "You were in the hospital. Everyone thought you weren't coming back. That doesn't mean you get to erase me." Danielle spun toward Mitch, trying to cry now. "Please, I'm just trying to get my life together. I have nowhere else to go. I already paid rent for this month." He shook his head. "Not to me, you didn't." She turned to me, eyes wide, desperate now. "Elise, come on. We're family." I stared at her for a long moment, and then stepped forward, past her, into my home. It was disorienting. Everything had been shifted slightly, furniture rearranged, my spice rack wiped clean. The art I'd collected over the years gone. My photos, my journals, the little trinkets I'd placed carefully over time, replaced by meaningless junk and shallow decor. A space that once held me now echoed with someone else's attempt at possession. But underneath it all, it was still mine. "I'll be back in 3 days," I said, turning toward Danielle. "With movers. Anything that doesn't belong to you will be staying." She didn't respond. She just stood in the doorway, breath short, fury rising behind her eyes like a fire with nowhere to go. "Get out, Danielle," I said, "before you humiliate yourself more." She opened her mouth, but said nothing. She slammed the door behind her as she stormed out, barefoot. Mitch let out a low whistle. "Damn." I didn't respond. I walked slowly to the center of the room, placed my backpack on the floor, and looked around. I'd never realized how much damage someone could do with just rearrangement. It wasn't vandalism. It was violation, but I wasn't going to undo her touches. I was going to overwrite them. Later that night, back at Jen's, my mother called. The name flashed on my screen for several seconds. I let it ring 5 times before I finally picked up. "Elise," she began, voice too sweet. "Danielle called me sobbing. She said you embarrassed her in front of the landlord." I didn't respond. "She was just trying to help, honey. She's struggling. And you weren't exactly present. I was in the hospital." "Well, yes, but she thought she could replace me, and you let her." Silence. "You gave her my apartment, Mom. You told her I wouldn't come back. You gave away my life. Elise, you changed the locks on your own daughter." More silence. Then, coldly, "You're being dramatic." That was it. That was the moment the last string snapped. "You won't be hearing from me again," I said. "Elise." I hung up and blocked her number. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just opened my laptop and began typing. The lease, the receipts, the photos, the timeline. Everything Danielle did while I was sick. Everything my mother allowed. Everything that gave me the right and power to make sure they never did this to anyone else again. Not only would I take my home back, I'd take back every piece of myself they tried to dismantle. 3 days later, I stood in the middle of my apartment again, alone this time. Danielle had moved out as promised, or more accurately, I had given her a 30-minute window with Mitch present and a police officer on standby. She arrived with her friend, sulking and throwing glares like they were weapons. She didn't speak to me once, but I saw the way she looked at the walls, at the life she had pretended to own, and how fast she grabbed everything she could carry. She didn't leave behind a thank you. Not even a lie. Just a few broken dishes, an ashtray I didn't recognize, and the stench of cheap perfume that clung to my curtains like regret. I opened every window and let the wind scream through the place. By nightfall, I was scrubbing down the kitchen. Not because it needed it, because I needed it. Every sponge stroke felt like peeling away her fingerprints. Every cupboard reorganized was a piece of my identity I was stitching back together. Jen dropped off a small bag of things I'd left at her place. Chargers, notebooks, the cactus I'd almost killed. I hugged her harder than I meant to. "You okay?" she asked. "I'm rebuilding," I said. That night, I slept on an air mattress in the living room. The bed still smelled like Danielle. The next morning, I sat at my desk and opened a new folder on my computer. I named it Documentation, Family Theft and Property Interference. It was time to get precise. I pulled every screenshot, messages from Danielle, receipts for my furniture, before and after photos of my home. I cataloged every item missing or damaged. I pulled up the rental code for my state, highlighting the violations, including illegal occupation, identity falsification, and unauthorized property disposal. I printed a dated list of personal belongings she had sold or thrown away, many of which I had photos of from old social posts. And then I found the most valuable piece, an old email thread between me and the landlord from 2 years ago, where he confirmed that all major upgrades, like the new water heater and flooring I paid for myself, would be reimbursed if I moved or evicted. I printed that too, because if I was going to take back my space, I might as well take some compensation too. By afternoon, I had all the documents, compiled into one tight PDF, titled, "For Legal Review Only," and sent it to a tenants' rights attorney that Jen's brother recommended. Less than 2 hours later, I got a call. The lawyer, Elise Mendez, was sharp, soft-voiced, but razor-edged, the kind of woman who didn't waste time pretending to be polite. Your case is strong, she said. But what exactly do you want? I leaned back in my chair and looked around my half-bare apartment. I want them to feel what I felt. Powerless, overlooked, erased. Then we don't settle quietly. I'm not afraid of noise anymore. Good, she said. Then let's file. Not just a report, a civil claim. For damages? For theft, identity interference, lease fraud, and emotional distress. I smiled for the first time in days. That night, I posted a simple message on Facebook. Just text, no tags, no names, but enough. When you're sick and vulnerable, some people show you their love. Others show you their teeth. To those who replaced me while I was healing, this isn't over. You forgot I'm still here. And I remember everything. I didn't check the comments. I didn't want their reactions. I wanted their fear. 2 days later, my mom showed up at my building. She knocked like it was still her right. I opened the door halfway, just enough. Elise, she said, breathless. What is this? Danielle's terrified. You're talking to lawyers now? I said nothing. She tried again. She made a mistake, okay? She didn't know you were. Don't lie, I said quietly. She didn't do this alone. She had help. From someone who had access to my email, my landlord, my accounts. She flinched. You opened that door for her, I added. You handed her my life. I was just trying to keep things moving, she whispered. You were out of it. You weren't answering. You thought I wouldn't come back. You thought I was replaceable. Elise. I shut the door slowly in her face. I wasn't finished. Not even close. The lawyer had already scheduled the first hearing, and I hadn't even begun to show them what I had planned next. The first court date was set for Friday morning. It wasn't a full trial. Not yet, but a hearing to establish the complaint. To get things on record. Alyssa had explained it clearly. This is where we make them realize it's real. Danielle hadn't responded to the notice she was served. Not by email, not by phone, not by mail. The envelope had been signed for. We had the receipt. But she was pretending she hadn't seen it. Alyssa grinned when I told her that. That's fine. Let her hide, she said. All that means is she won't see it coming when the judge freezes her accounts. In the meantime, I got to work reclaiming my apartment. It was slow. Every corner I cleaned, every drawer I opened, I found traces of her. She'd even scratched her initials into the back of my closet wall, like a child marking territory. I painted over it. Twice. The silence in the apartment was heavy, but it was mine, and that meant something. Until one night I came home from the grocery store and saw a familiar shape standing across the street. Danielle, hood up, arms crossed, just watching. When our eyes met, she didn't move. She just smiled. That smile, the same one she wore the day she opened my door, was even uglier now, brittle at the edges. I didn't look away. I walked inside, locked the door behind me, and opened the front-facing curtains fully. She was still there, pretending to be unfazed. The next day, I filed a police report. Not for harassment, not yet, but to document the encounter. Alyssa agreed. Always keep a trail, she said. She thinks she's intimidating you, but we're about to flip the script. That evening, I got a text from an unknown number. Wow. You're really playing the victim card hard. Good for you. Enjoy your sad little empty apartment. I didn't reply, but I took a screenshot, time-stamped, geotagged, and added it to the evidence folder. Then, something shifted. My aunt, Danielle's mother, I posted a rant online. Long, passive-aggressive, barely veiled. Some people just can't stand to see others get a break. They'll drag family through the dirt just to feel in control again. Sad, really. But karma always finds its way. Within minutes, mutual relatives were commenting. Vague sympathy, thinly veiled judgment. Jen saw it first. "You okay?" she asked, texting me a screenshot. "I expected this," I replied. "They're circling the wagons." But what they didn't know? I wasn't trying to fit back in their circle. I was preparing to cut through it. Friday arrived. The courthouse was quiet. Danielle didn't show. Alyssa wasn't surprised. "She's trying to ghost it. We'll submit the non-response and petition for a default ruling." The judge skimmed the documents, asked a few formal questions. I answered clearly, calmly. "Yes, Your Honor. My lease was still active." "Yes, she changed the locks." "No, she was never granted permission to move in." "Yes, I have documentation." Alyssa handed over the folder, everything neatly tabbed, organized, time-stamped, indisputable. The judge read through it slowly, then looked at me. "You're asking for damages?" "Yes," Alyssa answered for me. "Itemized and evidenced." He nodded. "If she doesn't appear by the second hearing, I'll issue the default." Alyssa smiled. "Thank you, Your Honor." As we exited the courtroom, Alyssa turned to me. "You know what we do now? Wait. Not just wait. We apply pressure." Later that weekend, I sent out one email, just one, to my extended family list, cousins, uncles, distant relatives. The kind of group that usually only came alive during holidays or graduations. Subject line: "Just so you know what's being said about me." Body: "Hi everyone. I've heard some of the chatter. Rather than fuel the rumor mill, I've attached a file of what actually happened, including court documentation, photos, and receipts. If you still think I'm the villain, that's your choice. But at least now, it'll be an informed one." I attached a condensed, polite, legally filtered version of the evidence package. No commentary, no drama. Just the truth. The fallout was instant. Half of them went silent. The other half messaged privately, some in apology, some in shame, and a few in furious disbelief at what my mother and Danielle had done. By Monday, Danielle's Instagram had gone private. Her wellness coaching profile had disappeared. And a mutual friend told me someone had emailed her past clients with screenshots of the court filing. That wasn't me. But I wasn't sorry either. This was the quiet unraveling. The part no one saw coming. They took my silence for surrender. But I'd only been sharpening my blade. The court gave Danielle one more week to respond. She didn't. Not when she received the updated claim. Not when she got the notice that a judgment would be issued in her absence. Not even when Alyssa sent her a final certified letter warning that wage garnishment could begin the moment the ruling was filed. And still, silence. She was trying to disappear, banking on the same tactic that had gotten her everything she wanted before. Avoid the fire and maybe it'll burn out. But I wasn't a fire. I was frost. Quiet, slow, and capable of creeping into places she didn't even know she'd left unguarded. One morning, I opened my mailbox and found a pale yellow envelope with no return address. The handwriting was unmistakable. My mother. I held it for a long moment, then slid my finger under the flap. Elise, I hope you read this with an open heart. I understand that you're angry, and maybe you should be, but I want you to understand why I made the choices I did. Danielle has had a hard life. She's always needed more help, more support. You've always been so strong, even when you were young. I just thought maybe she deserved a chance to have something steady for once. I never meant for it to go this far. I just didn't think you'd come back so soon. Can we please talk? Just the two of us? Privately? Let's not make this mess public. Love always. Mom, I read it twice, then scanned it, and added it to my folder of evidence. Not because I needed it legally, but because I wanted to remember. Wanted to never forget the softness she used as a weapon. The way she dressed betrayal in the language of love. The way she made my strength sound like a fault. I didn't respond to the letter. Instead, I did something she begged me not to do. I went public. That week, I was invited to speak at a local tenants' rights panel. It was a small event, hosted by a community organization that helped renters who had faced illegal evictions and housing fraud. Jen's brother had submitted my story. They asked if I'd be willing to share what happened, in my own words. So I stood on a small stage in front of 30 strangers and told them. I told them about the hospital, about Danielle, about the changed locks, the apartment I paid for, the life that was mine, handed away like it was nothing. I watched people shake their heads, some clutching the edges of their seats. One woman cried quietly in the back. Afterward, a young man came up to me. My brother took my house after my car accident, he said. Nobody believed me when I tried to tell them. I believe you, I said. And that's when I knew. I had power now. Not just legal, not just financial, but narrative power. They had tried to erase me, and I had become louder. That night, I made one final move. I uploaded the video of my panel speech to a private YouTube channel, unlisted, cleanly edited, captions added, and I sent the link in a direct message to my mother. No commentary, no anger, just the link. She read it within 5 minutes. She didn't reply. But within the hour, Danielle's name vanished from all her public socials. And that night, for the first time in years, I received a message from my younger cousin, Mia. Saw what they did. I'm sorry. I wish I'd said something earlier. I just thought maybe you were used to it. But you didn't deserve that. No, I didn't. But they did. The next morning, Alyssa called. She missed the deadline again. She said, "Judgment is filed. The damages are officially approved." How much? $18,426, plus interest, plus court fees. I didn't cheer. I didn't laugh. I just closed my eyes for a moment. She won't pay it, I said. She'll try. To hide. But we've already submitted liens and wage inquiries. She'll learn what garnishment really feels like. Good. Want to take it further? She asked. Public record. Press release. Let the employers find out. I paused. Then, not yet. I wasn't done. Not until my mother faced me. Not until the woman who handed over my keys, my life, understood that silence wouldn't save her anymore, and I already knew how to do it. Because inside a dusty box in my closet, beneath my old college binders, I had something she'd written years ago, a letter, from when I was 17. When I'd almost dropped out of school to work and help pay bills. She'd told me then how proud she was, how strong I was, that one day she'd rely on me to take care of the family. I found it, I scanned it, and I had plans for exactly where it would go next. The letter was yellowed at the edges, tucked between old report cards and a faded photo of me in braces. I hadn't read it in over a decade. Elise, you've always carried more than you should have. You take care of others like it's your job, like you're not a kid, too. I want you to know I see that. I'm proud of you. Sometimes life will ask you to give more than you should, but promise me this. Don't ever let someone take from you just because they can, not even me. One day, you'll be the one holding the line for all of us. You already are. Love you more than life itself. Mom, I read it 3 times before I carefully slid it into a new envelope. I wrote 2 words across the front in black ink. You did. Then I mailed it to her. No note. No explanation. Just her own words, returned with weight. That weekend, my aunt hosted a barbecue. Not an apology dinner, not a reconciliation. Just a casual get-together, as if the past month hadn't happened. Danielle was there, laughing too loudly, wearing sunglasses she couldn't afford and shoes she didn't walk comfortably in. My mother was there too, smiling like nothing had cracked. I wasn't invited, but I didn't need to be. Jen was. She took pictures. She sent 1-word texts. Fake. Cringe. Wow. Then finally, you sure you don't want to send that to the papers? I stared at the photo for a long time. My mom with her arm draped over Danielle like they were sisters. The same mother who said I was too dramatic. That Danielle needed it more. That I should let it go. Let it go. I had let it go. For years. Every slight, every unspoken comparison, every moment I was told to understand someone else's, struggle while my own went ignored. But not anymore. That night, I printed one final letter. This one was for the Board of Education. Danielle had recently applied to be a teaching aide, a program assistant at a local preschool. Something low barrier but sensitive. On her application, she had listed her current residence and previous employment. She listed my apartment as her residence. She listed herself as having done freelance caregiving and housing management for a sick relative. Me, I included the court filing, judgment confirmation, and a copy of her text. Enjoy your sad little empty apartment. I sent it certified. I knew they'd read it. A week later, Danielle's Instagram went dark again. A former friend messaged me, unprompted. Yo, she's freaking out. Says someone sabotaged her job app. She's blaming you. I didn't respond, but I smiled. Because for once, she was the one walking into locked doors. The next evening there was a knock at mine. When I looked through the peephole, I didn't see Danielle. I saw her. My mother. She looked older, not aged, just deflated. Like something behind her eyes had finally stopped pretending. I opened the door halfway again. No words. She didn't smile. Didn't play soft. Elise, she said. I got your letter. I nodded once. Nothing more. You really meant it, didn't you? All of this. I let silence answer. She sighed. I didn't think you'd ever really walk away. I didn't walk away, I said. You let go first. She winced. I just wanted to keep the peace, she murmured. You did, I said, by choosing her, by choosing silence, by deciding who got to stay and who could be replaced. Tears welled in her eyes. But I didn't soften. Elise, I'm sorry. I didn't say, I forgive you. I didn't even nod. I just asked, why now? She swallowed. Because I finally believe you were never the problem. I didn't let her inside. But I didn't shut the door in her face either. We stood in that space for a moment, the space between apology and repair, and for the first time, I didn't feel small in front of her. I felt equal, maybe even stronger. Later that night, I journaled one sentence. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means refusing to carry what isn't yours anymore. And for once, the weight on my shoulders finally felt lighter. It didn't take long for Danielle to lash out. A week after the barbecue, a screenshot started circulating in our extended family group chat. Danielle had posted a long, furious caption beneath a filtered selfie with a wine glass in hand. Funny how some people build their entire personality around being a victim. Some of us were just trying to survive. You can take someone's stuff, but it doesn't mean you can take their story. Don't believe everything you read, especially not from someone who thrives on pity. It was thinly veiled, but not veiled enough. My phone buzzed for hours after that. A few relatives defended me. A few played the middle. Most stayed silent, pretending neutrality was nobility. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because that same day, Alyssa forwarded me an update. Garnishment order processed. Employer confirmed compliance. Danielle's wages, from the side hustle job she still had, would now trickle to me in quiet legal streams. Not out of apology, but from obligation. She would work, and I would get paid. Poetic, in its own quiet rhythm. But that wasn't the part that mattered most. No. The real moment came 2 weeks later, on a Sunday afternoon, when I walked out of my apartment building and saw Danielle standing across the street again. She didn't have the same brittle confidence this time. She looked tired. She crossed the road slowly, like a child waiting for permission. Elise, she said. Can we talk? Looked at her. The same girl who wore my clothes, erased my name from the mailbox, smiled in my doorway like it was hers. I don't owe you that, I said. She blinked, wounded. I know, but I wanted to say it. I'm sorry. I was desperate. You were gone, and you wanted my life. She didn't deny it. I waited. Finally, she said, You win, okay? You made your point. But I shook my head. This wasn't about winning, I said. This was about being seen, and now you are. I turned to walk away, but she called after me. Will you ever forgive me? I didn't stop. I didn't answer, because forgiveness wasn't hers to request anymore. It was mine to withhold, or not. On my time. Back upstairs, I made tea, sat by the window, watched the city move beneath me, vibrant, alive, impersonal. My apartment was warm now, mine again. The rugs were back where they belonged, the bookshelf rebuilt. The keys matched the lock, and the silence. It wasn't hollow anymore. It was peaceful. Later that week, I boxed up a few old things, labeled them clearly, for donation, not for return. Clarity was a kind of closure, too. Then I wrote one last entry in my journal. They opened my doors. They crossed every line, so I redrew them, thicker, brighter, and with locks only I control. I didn't get revenge through rage. I got it by rising, so quietly they never heard it coming. And just like that, the story wasn't about what they took anymore. It was about what I reclaimed.